Hello, everyone, and welcome to Chat19, a podcasty-style thingamajig featuring the players you love from Nat19. Here we'll be delving into some of your most burning questions you've submitted using the hashtag Chat19, as the hashtag Chat19 was already taken by a restaurant in New York. I am your host, Chase Coffin Jockey Corbin, and I am joined today by some lovely, lovely people. How about you guys introduce yourselves as well as a little bit of info about your character?
I'm lovely people.
Yes,
I'm all right.
Deco, say things. Deco, say words.
Hello, I'm Deco, otherwise known as SummonerBlue. I play Quintus Valorbuilt, who is a nobleman, a knight of the Red Lion, who is traveling around with his best friend and all of his other new best friends, and well, there we go. We're all gonna die.
What?
I'm
No.
Aaron Parnell, co-founder of Project Mouthwash. I play Miriam Lucius, the Tiefling Bard. He is that aforementioned best friend.
Beautiful. What a good time. Okay. So the first question that I have here is for Quintus.
Oh, that's me.
So it is. Quintus, where did the nickname Kitty come from?
So there are probably two answers to this.
Go on.
there is the Quintus answer, and then there's the us answer, I believe, Aaron, which you can probably talk more about that one. But I think it was the original design with Miriam, right? Yeah. He's a tiefling. So they have these horny boys, and horny boys, and
Hey.
and the original thought was that his horns were going to look similar to cat ears. So whenever I thought of, well, you know,
My horns have nothing to do with it, so I can feel this one.
yeah, do that.
When I was creating Miriam, I was looking around for just different tables and stuff to design the character because I was very freeform with how I made him. And I rolled on a random tiefling features trait. It's not really seen a whole lot because a lot of art is done at a distance, but Miriam has cat-like eyes.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah, because you had the meme of when I get excited, I look like a big dumbass.
You have the big cat eyes.
Yeah.
So I was just thinking about what a younger Quintus would do whenever like he was having some sort of endearment to this character, and he's just like, hey, endearment means talk like being casual with people, and casualness means nicknames, and nicknames means kitty.
All right. I like it. I approve. Has that been a question for this like entire game? Like, how long have you guys been playing the game for?
Kinda. I mean,
we're in the like late teens at this point, and it's never really been brought up too much.
it was brought up in the first game, I believe, and
Okay.
there was like a big thing where we didn't really get into it, but like I then looked over at Miriam, and it's just like, you don't have a name for me, and then he called me Quinn, and I was like, ah.
Nice.
It's great.
Okay, cool. I'm glad that you guys actually did say it, because I would feel really weird that what I assume is a very central part of your dynamic had never been explained up until this episode of a podcast.
This is the most in detail it's been explained.
Okay, I'll take that. I'll take that.
Just for you.
Next question is for Miriam. Besides your name spelling out marry him, where did you get the inspiration for your insults? Is it personal experience off the top of your head, or is someone else telling you what to say?
For context, I basically, in fact, have any damaging cantrips other than Vicious Mockery. This was a very purposeful decision I made when making Miriam, because I was challenged when creating the character to be a lot more social. And being a bard, that's kind of their shtick, is Vicious Mockery. So I just make them up literally as I'm saying them almost all the time. I joke about writing notes down. I don't do that. I just do my best, and that's why there's some amazing flops And that's fine because the failures will eventually be forgotten.
Speaking of the failures eventually being forgotten, would you like to, for throughout all time immemorial, say now on this podcast what your favorite flop is so that it can stay immortal?
Your hands are stupid?
That's
I
where
think
the
I said
D4
that to
psychic
a
damage.
Kuotoa, so a fish person who couldn't even understand me. It's just like, what?
That is absolutely worth a D4 of psychic damage. I don't know what you're talking about. Do you have a favorite insult or any number of favorite insults that you've said?
No, they kind of blur together. I'm just kind of in the zone of combat. I'm like, all right, what am I going to insult this person with? And if they die, then I move on to the next target and hope I can think of it before my turn shows up. But no, I don't have any top tier favorites or anything like that. Not yet, anyway.
We'd actually.
No,
Sorry.
No, man. So
we had actually went out of our way to like make sure you killed somebody with it, right? And I can't remember what you said with that one.
Oh yeah.
That's wonderful. Okay. Next question is for both of you. How did you two meet? Miriam was from a mining town in Ratia, I believe it's pronounced. I don't know how to pronounce the place.
Retia.
Retia, thank you. Retia, while Quintus is a noble in the land away. So how did this friendship come to be?
It was actually the Landawa.
So to my understanding, Retia is the continent in general. Miriam's from a country called Grey Rock, in a town called the Mithril Dive, and he moved away from there when he was younger. And he just kind of set out, because being a tiefling isn't really a great look, and it definitely makes life for people around them a little bit more difficult. He decided he would kind of fix that problem by removing it, and he set out on his own. He ended up in the land away after some extended time. He trained to become a bard, and it was at one of the Valorbilt's parties that we first met. About 6 years ago in game, roughly, at this point.
Yeah, around there. And that was like around your training to be a bard, and my like near the end of like being in the Red Lion Knights as far as like basic training was concerned. And then we became friendos by going to all kinds of heckin' dank parties.
Yep, that's true.
Party boys.
We're basically frat boys, yes.
So, with the frat boy backstory so thoroughly set, how did that kind of motivate you guys to go out adventuring and into more dangerous territory?
Ooh.
So, the 2 years prior to the campaign, it came up last session actually.
We don't have to hide it anymore.
Quintus's father passed away during an attack on the city, and in there's a lot of people and circumstance that put him where he was, but he ended up saving Miriam's life and died doing so. And definitely that's been a literally a debt that Miriam can't repay. He's best friends with Quinn already, and then with that on top of it, when Quinn was sent to get this box that he so desperately wanted, Miriam jumped at the opportunity.
Yeah, there was a theft of a family relic, basically, that Quintus needs to assume the household to become the head of the house, and it was stolen by a bandit lord named Murkwire. So we went off looking for a bandit lord, and we eventually found him. And bad things ensued.
That's not ominous. Okay, cool. That's neat. Next question is for Quintus. Actually, a bit of a follow-up on that last question.
Ooh.
With Miriam being a tiefling, and Aaron talking about how tieflings tend to cause issues for those around them, why is Quintus as trusting as he is? Is it due to the beliefs of his homeland? Was it the way he was raised? Does he just have a general naivete? And does Miriam being a tiefling affect it in any way?
So when it comes to Miriam in particular, when it comes to Kitty, I'm pretty sure that he's just extremely trusting because he knows that first off, Kitty is smarter than him. So he probably knows, what best to do, what best to not do. They're both pretty laid back when it comes to a lot of things. And he just really trusts him, like a best friend. However, again, one of the things that came out recently was that Quintus blames himself for what happened with his dad. One thing that hasn't amazingly gotten brought out immediately, which is, kind of just like little minor stuff, was that Quintus basically blames himself because he went with a different plan than what his father wanted as far as like the battle was concerned. And because of that plan, Quintus put his father in a worse position during that battle, which led to him unfortunately passing away. And Quintus at this point does not trust himself to do much of any planning or anything like that, which is why he usually just flies off the seat of his pants and tries to be as nice as he can to everybody, because he's like, I need to trust people because I didn't trust my dad.
Okay, I gotcha. Okay, fair. So with that, next question is for Miriam. Miriam seems like a person interested in more casual relationships, generally. But what would it take for him to pursue a more serious relationship?
Right now, not a lot.
Perhaps with
or
any
rather,
given cleric, hypothetically speaking. Surely.
No. So Miriam's he's young, especially by the party standards. He's, I think, the second youngest of the core group. But he's been around, and he's had relationships in the past, but it's not something that motivates him at this point. Especially with what they're doing. He could die literally any day, and trying to pursue something that anyone could pretend is going to last an extreme amount of time to him seems ridiculous.
Do you think that any of that motivation comes from a deeper area of like being a tiefling and how challenging it is to exist long term with people?
Absolutely. The being a tiefling is colored. I've tried to make sure it colors basically every aspect of his perception of the world. He absolutely doesn't trust almost anyone. The people he does trust, he trusts a lot, but that takes a long time to get there. I've joked with plenty of people in the party about, like, no, I don't trust you. Why would I? I've known you a month. But yeah, he's had relationships, and for better or worse, they've definitely had their own issues, and he's acutely aware of his personal circumstance interfering with anything like that.
Gotcha.
Plus, maybe not in the same way, but I do think that things have gotten pretty serious with said cleric.
I'm waggling my eyebrows. It doesn't come through on the podcast. But I'm waggling. Very much waggling.
Noted.
So, with Miriam having trust issues generally and having bonds that take so long to form, but having these bonds like securely met with Quintus, what are the odds of a Quintus x Miriam ship?
You act as if it's not already there.
Mm-hmm.
That thing is sailed.
We joke a lot about it.
Yeah, they've been in, especially as far as we've joked, many situations together. We're definitely in the D club. I can't imagine we're not. But it feels more like the extremely occasionally homoerotic frat bros. I couldn't see that. I could be surprised, but I doubt it.
One of the very first jokes with us was a thing called the Devil's Three-Way.
Yeah. Oh, goodness.
So we're pretty sure that if that it's sailed as much as it's probably going to, unless things change.
Gotcha. Okay. So, next question is for Quintus.
Ooh.
What are Quintus's actual plans for settling down? Does he plan to join the Lions Council as soon as possible, or does he want to continue adventuring with the guild, especially now that it's growing? And if so, to what end?
It's very crazy because Quintus, and as you know, I don't really know what his uncle Unk is going to be doing with this. Right now, his uncle is taking the leading role of the family. But he's been retired. Like he doesn't want to be there. Like the only reason he's there is because Quintus's dad is dead. So he's the one that sent him on the thing to go and get the box and all this different stuff. And if it was up to Quintus, he would want to just stick with the party, just stick with the guild. He wouldn't want to really be, stuck in the land away just doing Lion Council stuff. However, I believe because of the last game, Quintus is definitely wanting to immediately return to the land away almost as soon as they're done with their current endeavors. And because a lot of the Lions Council stuff has to do with not only him, but also Aristo, who you guys will be seeing next time. So it's definitely more the latter at this point. Or the former at this point. He really wants to go back to the Lions Council, take over for his uncle, and find out some things.
Okay. So, are you imagining that that's more of a permanent situation, or do you think that's more temporary until things are settled?
Quintus thinks it's permanent. I don't. I'm pretty sure that things are going to go down to where it's not really going to matter.
I gotcha. And then also for people who have not seen the actual Nat19 streams, what did happen with Aristo? Because I am one of those people who has not seen Nat19 streams.
Last game, we had a bit of a fortune telling type of thing on all of the party members about shadows that lingered over us, and most of us were told we're probably going to destroy the world. Or at least, a good chunk of it. And one of the things that was told to Quintus is that there is a darkness in the Lions Council, somebody who is basically manipulating things from the shadows. And he was also told that, or at least when it got to Aristo, or Raleigh, whichever one you want to go with, it was told with him that he kind of started it whenever he couldn't remember things. He has like this big like missing chunk of memory because he was possessed by a demon. Really interesting character. But apparently like his stuff starts with that. Quintus learned about there being a literal dungeon underneath his house that ties into it, and a whole bunch of stuff. Like, it honestly would take most of this chat for me to really go over all the crazy stuff that was brought up last game.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay. So there's some things going down. Sounds like fun. We'll figure out what that's gonna turn into eventually. So next question is to both of you. What is the most fun part about playing characters that have a pre-existing relationship with each other? And are there any challenges that come with that? What are some helpful tips for anybody who's interested in having two PCs as BFFs from before the campaign started?
Do you got something, Aaron?
I think it's innately useful, just speaking as a player, coming into any campaign with a pre-existing makes session one a lot easier, because you already have a dynamic you can work off. There's a lot of jokes that we did before we ever actually set foot in the campaign that partially grounded our characters, but they were like slightly more caricatured versions of ourselves. I can't think of any challenges. I'm sure there could come up depending on what characters are there. but with Quinn and Miriam, it's just been riffing on that. The hardest thing, I guess, would be we joke about the swamp a lot, which is just something we riff on as a thing we've done that is an adventure, but not really an adventure, so to speak. And just establishing these little ticks and backstories to make the friendship have that history feel a little bit more real. That would be the hardest. Tip wise, have fun. Be friends with your friend. It's as long as you're comfortable with each other, you can make just about anything work.
I would say that the most fun part. What the hell?
Finally, the bomb shall explode in 2
I think my
minutes.
mom left her phone in my room. Oh no! 1 second.
Spent all these years talking over me in D&D games. Well, now I'm going to talk over you, Sir SummonerBlue.
I'll take it to her later. I'm so sorry. Anyway,
Above you, you'll find a chain with 3 cell phones.
Anyways.
I really think that the challenges would be more apparent if it wasn't Aaron who I was with. I really think the absolute funnest part is what he just mentioned with the swamp stuff. Being best friends going into a game, or having our characters be best friends going into a game, is really cool if your partner is really good at improving. And that is 100% true in Aaron's case. I feel like I can say just about anything, and he can say just about anything, and both of us can go along with it very easily. And I feel like that's the most fun part of having a pre-existing relationship. I feel like it could be a challenge if you were with somebody else who wasn't as flexible of a role player, who wasn't as comfortable with that. So my tip would just be to make sure that you know who you're going into the game with. Make sure that you know what kind of stuff they're all about. And when it comes to us, like, I think that we hit the nail on the head with this one.
Fair. That's totally fair. I got engrossed in you describing things and I lost my place. I got is what happened.
I've been there.
Get gotted.
So, okay. With next question that I have here is for Balthea.
Ooh.
Which there's an element of this that I don't know about. I'll follow up on later. But the question is for both. How worried were you when the spoiler showed up in the cave? And did Miriam feel that he could actually kill it? Or did he feel that it was as hopeless? Maybe that's...
I think they should have added a Quintus in there at some point.
Somewhere,
Probably
yeah.
did Quintus feel he could actually kill it?
Did Quintus feel that he was Miriam? Okay. Did Quintus feel that he could actually kill it, or did he feel it was as hopeless as Miriam suggested afterward?
Until Miriam told him what it was, he felt like he would protect his friends to the dying breath. Because he thought that this thing was coming to take away Raleigh's body after Raleigh died. Whenever Miriam told him what it was, because Miriam, luckily enough, had a what's the spell called?
Comprehend languages.
Comprehend languages. Miriam luckily had comprehend languages on, so he was able to actually understand it. And he was able to learn what it was. But I swiped at it, man. I was ready. Like, I knew what it was kind of out of game. I was swiping at it in game because, like, I'm gonna fucking die. But Quintus would not have let something pass him by until he was told what it was.
Gotcha. So I'm gonna, for the sake of people who care about this, I'm gonna add a spoiler tag here, and maybe there will be a timestamp on screen of where to skip to if you don't want to hear about this. But I want to hear about this. So what the hell was in the cave?
So after Raleigh passed away, and later on it was indicated that this would have happened, whether or not he had. He was warned several sessions prior by his patron that they would be coming for these ametrine apples that we were given as a gift for saving a community from a evil undead tree.
Did we save a community?
We saved the community. We didn't save the people in it. Well, we saved a person in it, and he's
we
great.
saved a people.
Old man Gronkenheimer. And so the apple was effectively a gift from a god, not a godlike being, and he was told that it was unfit for our filthy mortal hands, and it would need to be given over. He unfortunately died due to frog, and it didn't really care about that, but it also couldn't communicate with any of us. Like, if I didn't have that comprehend languages, it would have just been angry, probably would have knocked us all out, and rifled through his corpse to get it. But I could understand it, but it couldn't understand me. And so I could hear it effectively demanding the thing. And we gave that up in order for it to not obliterate us, given that it's a patron-level creature. It's definitely out of our league.
Like, you had mentioned it was, was it an Eidolon or an Eidolos? I can't remember.
Eidolos.
It was an Eidolos, yeah. So basically it was like a god.
Oh.
Demigod status, at least.
Yeah.
So you took a few swipes at God.
Outside of Quintus, I'm about to die, but I'm gonna hit this thing, because that's what Quintus would do.
Like a large serpentine dragon, a lot of ice around it. It is dangerous, massive danger noodle.
Fun. So
Logan was very nice to me for not killing me.
very generous.
He woulda. I'm sure.
I know he would have.
So I'll say this is probably where to come back in the episode, just in case somebody needs a note for that in editing.
And spoilers.
And spoilers. So this is a great follow-up question I wasn't planning on asking, but after you said all that shit, for Deco, why are all of Deco's characters suicidal?
Listen.
Go on.
That's not fair.
Go on. Why did you sucker punch God? Go ahead and...
First off, it was a masterwork standard with a spear on the end. Second, they're not. Actually, in particular, one of the characters people most identify me with, Ashley, was very much not wanting to die through the entire campaign. But, Noelle, Quintus, Assassin, Malaclips, a leaf.
Huh? The list goes on.
I guess it's more just I'm not afraid of my characters dying. Like, my characters are usually a lot more vocal and a lot more headstrong than a lot of things I would probably normally make as NPCs, that's for sure. And they are definitely out there. They definitely have like very strong motivation. So if anything ever goes against that motivation, or if anything ever goes up like toward their interest or their fears or anything like that, they will go like ham into it. The only exception, of course, being Ashley. But Quintus, I don't think he's suicidal. He's just very much wanting to protect his friends. His honor is his life, and his honor is so his life. That is a joke because of the character sheet. I rolled 2 things, and I got them both honor.
Perfect. Very honorable boy.
Very, very honorable. Double honorable.
Twice as honorable as the average, Quintus. So next question is for Miriam, which is, are you in the employ of Quintus's uncle, as you might have implied? And if so, how did you get that mission?
Yes and no. Quintus's uncle is the one who sent him off to retrieve this stolen family heirloom. And Miriam jumped at the opportunity to accompany Quintus as an effective protector and friend to travel with. because of a lot of the aforementioned things with our shared history.
Mm.
And while this isn't something I'm 100% on, I think Quintus's uncle probably has one of the clearest pictures of exactly what happened on that day. And he would know very well that Miriam wouldn't let Quintus do that alone. There's just no way he could bring himself to. So employ might be, I'd say it's correct, but it's definitely a muddy word in that he's not hired. He's just unable to refuse.
Gotcha. Who would you say that Miriam feels his debt lies most with?
Well, I mean, Lucent, but it's Quintus's father. But in doing that, he's wronged the whole family, and the most guilt he would feel there is to Quintus, because they'd been friends for 4 years at that point.
Gotcha. So if Quintus's uncle were to ask something of you, and Quintus were to ask the opposite of you,
Quintus, any day.
I get that.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah, Miriam's loyalties have been unequivocally pointed towards Quintus since the beginning of the campaign.
Totally fair. Next question is again for Miriam. If Miriam's tiefling curse is the result of some predetermined selective breeding, does Miriam want to search for the reason why, or does he want to stay away from the details of the Esper's prophecy at all costs?
Miriam is a chaotic person. There's a mix of what happened after. This is more of the prophecies from last session.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't say a lot about it because he didn't know what to say about that. That's a crazy situation to be in. He's one of the people that had a very apocalyptic foretelling. And I can't say he actively is going to look for the reason why, because Miriam's thoughts on many things, if you can't change it, then wait, because the world is made of change. It's the one unmutable thing about the world, is that change will happen, whether you like it or not. He has mentioned offhandedly a couple times that the scale that whoever is working behind the scenes to create him and the people around him would have to be working on has been something that's been going on longer than 25 years. And these people aren't people he could mess with or find anything out about very easily. So it's something that he expects he'll run into, given that it's prophetic. But he's not gonna grab a magnifying glass and go Sherlock Holmes on their ass just yet.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense.
He kind of deals with the problems in front of him one at a time. And if they bother him, well, maybe he'll kill them. Maybe he'll just die.
Fair. I have yet another question for Miriam, which this one I'm going to augment a little bit based on some of the things that we've talked about. But the question is, would you give your life for Quintus? And follow-up question, do you feel that in doing so, you would repay the debt you owe?
In a heartbeat, yes. Repay him? I don't know. I doubt that he has that level of self-worth to think that that would fix the problem. When we were originally hunting down the Esper, it was a clock ticking in the back of the mind of, alright, so when Quintus tries to kill himself to save somebody, how am I stopping that? And if Quintus dies, how am I dying to bring him back and stopping him from just turning this into a weird cycle where we keep killing ourselves to save the other one? So I was looking at seeing if I can get the Esper to take his memories away or something like that.
You son of a bitch.
In order to make sure he continued living. So I'm not sure he'd consider his debt paid, but it would still be something he would do in a moment.
I think Quintus handled the Esper fine.
He did great. He lived, and that's a good thing.
Beat the average. Beat what was expected. You did it.
That's all I can hope, man.
So, also, side question off of the idea of, like, getting the Esper to erase, memories. Do you feel... Okay, so if you had asked the Esper, hey, wipe out a chunk of his memories, how do you think that would play in conjunction with the theme of the campaign being the threat of amnesis and losing memories?
I think everyone would have been mad at him, but he would be planning to die, so he wouldn't really care at that point. I think it'd be, had something like that happened, it would be a very sad thing. I don't know what he'd have to give up to make it happen. I don't know if the Esper could even do that. It's just something that it was thematic enough, and one of the only ways that he could even think that Quintus wouldn't immediately be like, all right, we're bringing them. How dare they try and bring me back?
You're not allowed to die before me, kitty.
Next question is for Quintus. I know that we've talked about this a bunch through the recording, but could you describe the story behind your dad's death, like, specifically, for anybody that would want to hear that specific story?
Okay. I don't have all the details because this was something that was like kind of brought through with Logan, like, before the campaign started and stuff like that. And I'm sure that, like, the best way to do this is just to do it from Quintus's perspective. He was very newly out of his basic training as a Knight of the Red Lion. He was in a position where he was very cocky, very like, noble, very frat boy. And he was thinking that his father was going up against these we were going up against, I think they're orcs. Let me go look really quick. I think they were. It was going up against an orc named Bilgog Stalemaw, and his army of misfits. Quintus wanted to basically, to an extent, like, I don't know the entirety of Quintus's or the father's plan, but basically I was assuming he was wanting to rush him, whereas the father was taking a more cautious approach, and Quintus basically did it anyway. He did his own thing. He got a bunch of people involved with it, and every one of them died. After all that happened, he knows that his father also charged into everything after he did. He was lost in all of the sea of people, and he would have definitely seen, or at least been around for the death of his father, where Bilgog, I believe, cut off his head. I can't remember entirely. But Bilgog ended up getting the name Night Slayer from that. And one of Quintus's goals right now is to basically, I want to murder him because I don't like that he's using my father to bolster himself. It was recently that Vogan, who also will be in the next Chat19, had fought against, like, one of the people from his backstory and let him live. And one of the big, like, musings Quintus would have had at that point was, Vogan is a lot stronger than me because I would not have let the one I'm after live.
That was going to be a follow-up question I had after that story, was if, in a purely hypothetical situation, Bilgog came to you and apologized, attempting to seek some form of penance, what would Quintus do?
Oh, his penance would be his head on my standard.
Okay. So with that, like, Quintus is traditionally a very cheery, happy person, and, like, very outgoing, but, like, there are certain things that cannot be forgiven, cannot be tackled in a happy way, and that's one of them.
It is that in particular. I believe that anything can happen. Anything can change by the time that does happen. Quintus, at this point, The only way that this is ending is with Quintus dying or with Bilgog's head on Quintus's standard. And if anything changes beyond from now to then, whatever. Maybe Quintus learns to forgive from his friends that are around him or anything like that, or learns of another way. But as of right now, that is the end. He's like, I'm seeing him and one of us are dying.
Would, again hypothetical because I'm curious, if some incredible threat was mounted against, like, let's say the world at large, and the only way to take care of it was to team up with Bilgog and his band of misfits, would you willingly forsake whatever was at stake to get your revenge?
Oh, that is a hard and a very anime question. I believe that Quintus would definitely... I believe he would definitely team up. Simply for the fact of he would never want to have his family go down as the ones who fucked everything up.
Fair.
His honor is his life, and his honor is so his life. He would definitely pull a, I will work with you, and we're going to kill each other after this is done.
Makes sense. Again for Quintus. Before the campaign started, you boasted that everybody in the party would be fine as long as they stayed behind your shield. And do you still think that statement holds true?
I don't think that's been true from the first game. That was one of the big jokey things we were talking about a lot, like before the campaign started. And I've been doing pretty well with it. I've been trying to be a defensive boy. But the very first fight we ever got into in the campaign, I didn't have my armor, I ditched my shield, and I ran over with my horse in my underwear and killed a bunch of people.
I suppose that's a fine way to omit any sort of responsibility, is if you don't have a shield.
Well, I had my shield. I got rid of it so I could double hand my spear.
Oh.
I do think that Quintus is very good at protecting people. I've been able to use my skills to stop a lot of critical hits from hitting Vogan in particular. But it's definitely less that, and I never thought that it was going to be an actual gameplay-wise thing it could happen, but he believes, like, yes, that my shield is strong, I need to be in the front of the party, I will protect everyone behind me, and then, Raleigh died, and he's like, oh no. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's makes sense. Being that Quintus wants to protect everybody so very much, and be the strong defensive boy that everybody can rely on, which do you think would be worse for Quintus? For Quintus to lose themselves to amnesis and forget everybody that he loved, or to lose loved ones because you couldn't protect them?
They're both pretty bad. I think it would be worse for him in particular, and this is probably not where I would think this would fall for him, but I think it would be worse for him to get amnesis and forget them. Simply for the fact of he puts a lot of weight in stories about his loved ones. He tells people, anybody who's around, like when he goes to bars and stuff, about his mother and father and about how much heroes they were and stuff like that. And he would do the same for any of his friends who would have died, especially like dying honorably or anything like that. And he would tell them, he would like tell their stories up too. He'd be like, oh, they were so great. This guy shot lightning out of his pinky. He would really play it up. I think that honestly the first one, and that really surprises me, like out of these answers, because obviously the worst thing for him is having lost them because he couldn't protect them, but the worst thing he would think for like their memory is for him to lose that. If he wasn't able to keep telling people about them, that is just basically the same as them dying again.
Okay, that's fair. question for Miriam.
Hello.
If at some point you were offered a deal to just snap the fingers and Miriam is no longer a tiefling, would he take that deal?
Probably, yeah. It's a pain in the ass. Like it's got its upside. I mean, I get some cool init magic from it. I can resist fire damage, hooray! But those aren't things that Miriam would really take into account. It's been kind of a pervasive force on his life, and he's the only tiefling that he's really ever spent a ton of time with himself. There's being able to walk down the street and not get 2 looks would be a strange miracle for him. So yeah, I would, at this point, I would almost guarantee that, yeah, he would take that deal.
That's fair. As someone who is a bard and could snap their fingers and cast a spell to make themselves no longer appear to be a tiefling, is there a reason you haven't picked up that spell?
He kind of wears at this point. He's been a tiefling for so long that you can use those looks and you can use the attention you can grab to your own advantage. He even jokingly talked about going and bothering the gem. We sold gems to a kind of racist lady. Let's buy a house near her so I can bother her every day, because just existing is enough to irritate them. And that's his own small pleasures he can take at it. I can't say he's ashamed of what he is. It doesn't come from that kind of place. It just comes from a convenient place of, if he could permanently change, he would do so. But if it's not a permanent change, then it's not one he's going to look to make.
That's fair.
I loved that interaction in particular with that lady, because like as soon as like we had came out from that, she had tried her best to like look good in front of Quintus, because she knew that Quintus was a noble. So like he just, after dealing with her and getting all the money for the gems and everything like that and leaving, he was literally just like, yeah, I don't like that person, and I would never date that person because they don't like Kitty.
That is entirely fair.
Kitty's a package deal, man.
Yep. Got it. If you want the coin, you got to get the kitty. Gotta get both. So for Miriam, he seems like his current long-term goal is just following Quintus around.
Yeah.
Does he have anything else that he would like to see accomplished in the long term?
Any more beds to break?
Miriam's got probably the most unactable goals in his own sense. He doesn't really have anything that he's actively seeking to do or get done. Part of it is because of a situation with Quintus. He wants Quinn to join the Lions Council, become this great hero, and come into his own on whatever terms he needs to. And I don't know if there's ever going to be a point where he thinks he's finished that task. Everything else he has is things he wants to do, but it's always a thing he'll get to. Or it's a thing that might, as far as he's concerned, might never come up, and that's also okay with him. Miriam is a big proponent of change being a thing that is unavoidable. And a lot of the goals he has are they're personal things that don't have any sort of cosmic effect like anything else they're doing. Right now we have people talking about like destroying countries and messing with the political systems that have been, in place for a good few hundred years at this point. His stuff is like, they're all down on a much more basic human level. Well, barring this whole prophecy thing, but that's new.
Sure.
Even before the prophecy thing, you in particular have gotten the eye of a rather powerful individual.
Oh, well, yeah. But again, that's not something he can do anything about. There's no goal there. He's just, well, let's not die. Let's do our best to do that.
Who is that powerful individual? Is that spoilers?
Go ahead.
There's no way to cleanly say it without spoilers. But it's also been a few sessions. Raleigh or Aristo passed away, and in our mission to release him from his confines, we had to raid a notable foreign leader named she goes by the Crystal Queen. We had to raid her castle, and while we were there, shenanigans ensued, and Miriam did the naughty hug with a fellow party member. And while they were doing the naughty hug, a curse he was under assisted the chaos ensuing and helped them accidentally destroy her bed. And he then, following that, stole from her. So she really hates him and wants him to die.
The naughty hug was done on the Crystal Queen's bed, which was the best part.
Yes. So yeah, he's made a foreign ruler really dislike him. Were she to get a hold of him, he would cease to be alive in moments.
Entirely fair. I asked this question last time on the previous episode, but I just am always curious about it generally. If each of your characters were to receive one like consequence-free non-monkey's paw wish as per the wish spell, which thing do you think your character would wish for?
We both stare at each other.
I can't say. You know, it's okay. There's two things. I've the thing that Marion would probably immediately want that I refuse to talk about because that'll come up at some point, maybe, or it won't. Who knows? Probably to bring Lucent Valorbilt back to life, because that would make him feel a whole lot better about the situation. I'd say that would be the second thing he would go to, and that would put him in a bit better of an emotional place.
+3 plate armor. I'm kidding. Probably. This is hard.
Yeah.
I feel
because I want to say get the dad back, but I don't think he would do that because he'd also why am I not wishing my mom back? I don't think he'd bring anyone back. I think he would mostly want to make sure that things in the future are better. So he would probably wish to know everything about the Lions Council, all of their secrets. Because he knows that one of them in particular is doing some bad things. So he would want to know all the secrets of the Lions Council, and he'd want to take its place there.
That is fair. One of my favorite interpretations of a wish spell was from a Pathfinder game that was like a story in lore for the universe that a lich used the wish spell to wish for the heart of the enemy leader in their hand. And that seems kind of like a Quintus level wish with specifically the revenge element.
I want Bilgog right here. Dead? No.
That will come later. I don't need a wish spell for that.
He'll need a wish spell.
Entirely fair. So last question that we have here for tonight is for Quintus. Out of all the people that the party has met, who is the most wife? Also, out of Lexi and Fenris, who is more wife?
You gotta put me on the spot here.
On the record.
Out of all of the characters, to Quintus, the most wife is Lyra. It's one of the first characters we had met. She had helped us out of a situation where we were basically left to die. She's a bard who did some music and stuff on his birthday party, and it was really nice. And she's really pretty, and his exact age and everything. Like they just have so many things in common. Those things in particular. I'm kidding. I believe last game especially, I had asked about her to one of the NPCs, and just to kind of show that Quintus has not forgotten her and that she's still kind of on the mind. Out of all the NPCs, it's definitely Lyra. Whether or not that's actually who he ends up wanting to go after or anything like that in the end is, whatever, it's still up in the air. But he really was impressed by her, especially her prowess in battle as well has really got him, which is one of his flaws as a character. But also I'm playing it as a good thing. Like, she proved herself in battle, so he's like even more like into it. And out of Lexi and Fenris, it's actually
on the record. Burn some bridges.
So Lexi.
Okay.
Now, there are reasons.
Go on.
If you would have asked me this a couple of weeks back, the answer probably would have changed. But you have to follow the bro code, man. Kitty has already been with one of those two people, and at that point, until he knows where Kitty's going with that, and until he knows what she wants out of that, he's gonna leave that one to them to their own thing. They're gonna hang out and do their thing, and Fenris is a very wonderful and pretty elf. But if we have to go, who's the most wifeable at the current moment, it is Lexi. Especially because they always are hanging out, always going hunting, and whenever he had brought her to do noble stuff, like whenever they were in the Crystal Queen's place and they were pretending to be nobles, well, he already is, he had saw like another part of her where she was acting a lot more intelligent, a lot less kiddish, and he was definitely impressed with her in that case.
Well,
So
there
Lexi,
you have
I
it.
believe.
There you have it, Lexi. Well, that's all the questions that we have that have been submitted. Thank you guys so much for coming on and answering everybody's questions, talking about your characters.
Super fun.
Oh, such a good time.
There are some thought-provoking questions in this one.
Oh, if you guys, and I mean this to anybody listening at home, if you want to submit any thought-provoking or otherwise questions to anybody that's going to be on this show, just go on Twitter and tweet at us with the hashtag Chat19 and let us know what you want to what your questions are. Next week, not next week, but next episode is going to be Aristo, Izzy, and Vogan, which is Spencer. So if you guys have any questions for them, and you want to dig up some dirt and burn some bridges and cause some drama, then absolutely try to destroy what semblance of friendship is there. I'm excited.
I mean, unless things change in the next 4 weeks, I'm not sure they're even that good of friends right now as characters. So
it will be an easy target.
That's gonna be an interesting one.
But yeah, thanks everybody. Thanks you guys. Thanks to just general. Thank you.
I'm you guys.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm a me Mario.
Woo! And we will see you guys next time on Chat19. Goodbye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Bye.